Welcome to all of us in Networking Nutritionists, and thank you, Stephanie, for being here today. Specifically today, we are here with a business coach for nutritionists, Stephanie Long, and she'll be sharing a step-by-step process that you can use to start or pivot or up-level your nutrition business and sign up paying clients. So specifically, she's going to be covering 6 essential steps to start that nutrition business. And those 6 steps, what we had in the group outlined for us is the entrepreneurial mindset, business fundamentals, working with clients, choosing your niche, choosing your offerings, and marketing and putting yourself out there. And I feel like based on some of the questions that have been popping up in our group lately and in some of our pods and things like that, that last one might be a place where we have some questions, that putting yourself out there piece. So, Nancy asked if we're all muted. I was worried we weren't having any sound. Yes, Nancy, we can't hear you at all. So no worries. Do anything you like.
That's always a worry.
Yeah, we can't see you. We can't hear you. You are free to do whatever you would like. So the way for us to connect with you during this time will be through the chat, as you just did, Nancy. So if any of the rest of you have any questions as we go or comments, feel free to pop them into that chat. You're also welcome to use the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. I will keep an eye on the chat as we go, and there's not too many of you here, so I should be able to do that pretty well. But if there's a question that you really want to make sure it gets answered, do throw that into the Q&A box. So as we go today, Stephanie is going to start with her presentation, and we will have some time for Q&A at the end of that as well. Stick around. There is a bit of a special offer also, as per usual. So thank you, Stephanie, for that as well. And I guess I'll turn things over to you then. Thank you for being here today, and I'll let you get started.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to share with your community. And hi, everybody. If we haven't met, I am Stephanie Long. I am a registered holistic nutritionist and a business coach for nutritionists. So I know this topic, depending on where you're at in your business, it might be, you might be a little bit further along. So if there are questions that pop up where maybe you just want to dig a little bit deeper into one of the topics, feel free to ask them in the chat. Now, it looks like I'm not able to see the chat while we're going. So feel free, Veronica, to just let me know some of the questions as they come up, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so feel free to ask more questions, or if you just need things broken down, let me know that too. There are no silly questions. I'm happy to go in depth into anything you might need some support on. So again, we're going to talk about the 6 steps to start your nutrition biz and sign your first paying clients. Let me just tell you a little bit about what we're going to talk about. So in today's workshop, we are going to learn those 6 steps, the step-by-step roadmap to starting a successful nutrition business. And the one thing I want to say here is I like to teach that it can be without a huge social media following, because I know a lot of us get stuck there where we're like, I'm not going to be successful until I have 5,000 followers. So I definitely want to introduce how your business can be successful without this, and also years of experience. For some of us, we're newer grads. Maybe we just graduated. Maybe we've been in business for a couple years. But if we don't have, 5 to 10 years of experience, sometimes we can discount ourselves and think that, or count ourselves out and think, I'm not ready enough, or I don't know enough to actually help someone. We're also going to talk about the 4 key areas to focus your attention on to kickstart your business. Or if you have kickstarted it and you still haven't looked at these 4 areas, these would be helpful for you. The top 3 mistakes that I see most new nutritionists making, and then how to avoid them. And then I am going to introduce some tools that most likely you've already heard about, but we can always talk about them a bit further, that can help you run a successful nutrition business. So I would love in the chat, for those of you that are here, let me know how long you've been in business for. You can let me know if you're just like a new grad, if you've been in business 1 or 2 years. I'd love to know kind of where everybody's at, if possible.
I think we actually have a good mix in here. I'll wait while
Okay.
everybody pops their answers, but looking at the participant list, there's a few people here who I know are just getting started.
Okay.
Nancy just said 2020.
Okay.
Jessica said 3 years. She's still a baby and she doesn't have good strategy or structure though. I love that, Jessica. And I know there's some others in here. Melanie, I can see you're in here. She's been practicing, has to be pushing 10 years now. So
Oh, okay, perfect.
yeah, we've got a whole bunch of different people
Great.
in different places.
Great. Well, Melanie, feel free to like chime in at any time because you're the pro. So, all right, here we go. So again, my name is Stephanie Long. I am a business coach for nutritionists. I'll tell you in a quick second how I got to this role. Like I mentioned, I'm a registered holistic nutritionist. And then I actually went on to take, if you know Megan Telpner, she has a culinary nutrition program, Academy of Culinary Nutrition. I took that program after I graduated from CSNN back in 2014. I also am part of the CSNN Alumni Association Advisory Committee, and I am a past CSNN instructor. I was the business instructor and a few other courses as well. And I finished instructing, I think right when the pandemic hit. I kind of was gradually leaving teaching, pandemic hit, and it all worked out for the best. So now my business is fully online and I only do the business coaching support. I also have a podcast, Next Level Nutrition Biz, if you are looking for some free content to help you in your business. Okay, so at this point, I should probably update this number, but with my online course, Launch Your Nutrition Biz, I've helped now over 350 nutritionists start and grow a successful nutrition business. And yeah, I want to help you today to figure out that roadmap, how you can do that yourself.
I'm going to interject, sorry, one more time, and then I won't interrupt.
No, you're good.
I just wanted to say, Nancy commented that she took your program when she first started. So this will be a good refresher for her.
Amazing.
And then Julia also commented that she's just here because she's heard terrific things about you. So just some nice kudos to start.
That's really nice. But thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I hope that I live up to the expectation, but I'll try my best today. So here's a little peek into my journey. So these are photos like 2014 to 2017. So one thing is that I mentioned I graduated from CSNN in Toronto. I did the, Yonge and Eglinton branch, if anybody is from CSNN, and also took the course there. Excuse me. Excuse me. I also started working one-on-one with clients. So that was my first kind of foray into graduating, and then started working with clients. I also started working at a supplement store and doing that part-time. And at this point, I was really confused how to start my business, honestly. I felt like CSNN and nutrition school in general gave me like a little bit of information, but I felt pretty stranded on what to do next. So I was like trying everything out and really just like, for the first year, like working so behind the scenes, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a second. And then when I finally started putting myself out there, I started getting one-on-one clients. I started running monthly workshops in my community. You can see here on the left-hand picture, I started working for SPUD, which is Sustainable Produce Urban Delivery, a company that does like food delivery and a lot of events in the community. I was living in Edmonton at the time. So that was me doing an event, my first event ever at SPUD, feeling pretty nervous. On the right-hand side, the picture here is I used to do one-on-one consulting with clients in a co-working space because it was always, where do I meet up with clients? And now, fast forward to 2023 almost, we can really work online if that's how we want to work with clients. In the bottom left-hand corner, I actually opened a co-working / workshop space in Edmonton where we facilitated clients and workshops with other practitioners. And then this is just a picture of me and my friend Melanie at an event as well. She's also a nutritionist. So as you can see, I really started to put myself out there, started to network, make connections. One thing that really grew my personal business was referrals from other practitioners. That's something that really helped me gain and gather more one-on-one clients. And then, like I mentioned, I started teaching at my nutrition school, and that actually led me to mentoring students. A lot of students were like, how did you start your business? And so I said, well, let me help you. I struggled so much in the first year. So it kind of was a natural progression to mentoring students, and fast forward to late 2017, I shifted out of my nutrition business and just now do full-time business coaching, honestly, because it brings me so much joy and it really feels like where I'm supposed to be. So that is my story. And hopefully you can relate to some of that, or maybe you're in the thick of it right now, but just remember that, even if you can't see the bigger picture, things really do come together. Sometimes there might be bits and pieces of things you're working on. And, a couple years down the road, you might see how that all collected together to get you where you currently are now, or where you will be. Okay, so before we jump into the 6 steps you need to take to have a successful nutrition business, let's talk about those 3 mistakes that I see most new nutritionists making. Even if you're not new, you might find that some of these are holding you back as well. So the first one is waiting until you're ready. This is one I see so often. I know that this was me 100%, where I just was like waiting for that point to like launch my website or do the next thing. So this can look like only working behind the scenes in your business. If you find that you're like constantly working like on your business behind the scenes, tweaking things, making updates to things, and you're not really spending time putting yourself out there, this could potentially be a problem moving forward, or coming up with ideas and without putting them into action. So maybe you have this long to-do list or a notebook without actually taking action, waiting or wanting more certifications before you can start. I know so many of us are guilty of this, of just like, okay, I need one more little course before I can be the expert, which, in a lot of cases is true, right? But we can start with what we know right now. We know so much more than the general public. So don't, again, count yourself out here. Waiting until everything is perfect. So I am definitely a recovering perfectionist. This is one I really struggled with, wanting, everything to look exactly right before I would post it on Instagram or send anything to my email list. And this like strive for perfection really harmed me personally in my business. And I'm curious maybe if that's something some of you are dealing with too, and it might be holding you back just a little bit. So the key to being a successful entrepreneur is putting things out before they're ready, which I know is scary for a lot of us, but it's about making tweaks and updates along the way. So your new motto needs to be done is better than perfect. So as an entrepreneur, we're just trying to test things out. So it might be putting version 1 out, refining, and then putting version 2 out. But if you don't even put version 1 out, you'll never know how to make that better or to improve that. Or, maybe it flopped the first time, but the second time it won't, right? Because you understand how to market yourself better or whatever it might be. So we just need to start with the first version and then continue working from there. Mistake number 2 is not choosing a focus or a niche for your business. Now, this one's maybe a little bit more controversial, and I'm not like a hard and fast, you have to have a niche. I think that there's circumstances where maybe you do not, or it doesn't serve you to have one, especially if you're working maybe in person, locally in your community, and you get a lot of referrals and you kind of can be a jack or Jill of all trades within the nutrition scope of practice. But for a lot of us working online, specifically, not having a focus or a niche might hurt you, because it's just such a big sea of people everywhere. And if we're not really clear about who we can help and how we can help, we end up, kind of drowning in the noise of the online space. So not having a focus or a niche can actually create confusion for your potential clients, because they might be like, well, I know you're a holistic nutritionist or a nutrition coach or whatever your designation is, but what can you actually do for me? They don't really understand how you can help them. It can also create confusion for you, because then potentially you just have to talk about a million things and you're not really an expert on one thing. So, I feel like that's the way we learn in school is to, be an expert on 20 different topics, but that can be very exhausting and lead to burnout. It can also leave you having to talk to everyone, like I mentioned, so information overload, or not being, this is a really good one, not being a go-to or easy to refer to nutritionist. So like I mentioned earlier, referrals can really build your business. And if someone doesn't know how to refer someone to you, let's say you want to partner with a naturopath, but they're like, I don't really understand exactly what you do, they're not going to know how to refer over to you. So this is where we need to get some more clarity. Sorry. Real life with the cats. Okay, so pro tip is to choose a niche or focus for your business, so you can become that go-to nutritionist and resource within your niche. Okay. So mistake number 3 is using the wrong strategies to get your first clients. So it might look like spending all of your time trying to put together some kind of social media plan, spending hours on a post, or just like not knowing what to write or when to post, even watching what everyone else is doing and comparing yourselves or comparing yourself. This can happen so often. I know that personally, I can find myself doing this often, even, 8 years into my business now. So it's just learning how to really curb that comparison and perfectionism. Also wishing you had more followers so you could finally sign clients. And, personally, I've, been under, when I had my nutrition business, I had a couple hundred followers, and then maybe 1,000. And my business for the last 8 years, I've had, under 3,000 or, about 3,000 followers, which is a really good number. But I just wanted to show you, you don't have to have astronomical amounts of social media followers in order to build a successful business. In fact, you might not even need to utilize social media to the fullest extent. There are other ways to market your business to be successful. And then the classic, taking 4 hours to write a post and then hearing crickets. So like I mentioned, you don't need 10,000 followers to grow a successful business. Instead of counting followers, spend lots of time nurturing your community and posting valuable content. This is how you will really grow a community that builds authority and builds you as that expert within your niche or your focus. So let's actually jump now into the 6-step roadmap to start your nutrition business. So the first one is entrepreneurial mindset. Now, I guess newsflash, if you are newer to business, you might not have known when you graduated from nutrition school that you were actually becoming a business owner. And I know that this kind of slapped me personally in the face where I was like, oh, okay, I need to know how to run a business as well. So this is something we really do need to step into. I think personally, I resisted this for so long, and I'm not sure if perhaps some of you listening are doing the same, but really just understanding that you're a nutritionist or a nutrition coach and you're a business owner, and you need to really have that entrepreneurial mindset in order to, really scale your business and bring on more clients. So that being said, mindset, your personal mindset plays a huge role in your nutrition business because we need to know how to understand how to run a business, how to set realistic goals, how to keep yourself in check, how to stay self-motivated. These are all going to be keys to your success. At the end of the day, I know a lot of people are like, what is like the magic pill or the key to like having the successful business? And depending your business model, maybe you're working in a clinic, so that could look a little different. But if you're just like a solopreneur, an entrepreneur by yourself, your own nutrition business, you are the key. You are the one that, if you're working on these pieces that I've mentioned here, you're the one that is going to either make or break it. I mean, there's lots of other factors. Let's not discount that. But, at the end of the day, you need to be the one that's constantly kind of working on those challenges that come up to make sure that you're growing and your business is growing. So definitely keep yourself in check when it comes to perfectionism, comparison. Imposter syndrome is a huge, huge one in our industry. People feeling like, who am I to do this? Or the not knowing enough. Again, that whole like, I need more certifications in order to help. Or just the confidence, like really building yourself up and knowing that you might not be the most confident right now, but it will come over time. And it's a muscle that has to be built through doing, right? We won't become more confident, or we won't, check the imposter syndrome, or we won't learn more about something unless we do. So many of us, that mistake that I see is sitting behind the scenes and not trying things out. So just a little reminder there for you if you're struggling with some of these things. And I'm curious if you're willing to be open and pop in the chat. Let me know which one you personally struggle with the most, and no judgment here. I've struggled with all of them personally, but I'd love to know, is it perfectionism? Is it the confidence piece? What is it there?
So Sabine jumped in immediately and said all of them.
Yeah, okay.
Natasha also said all of them. But mostly not knowing enough, going towards that way. Jessica said not knowing enough affects the way she sets up her services and pricing. Mm-hmm. Nancy said she always feels like she doesn't know enough.
Yes, I think that's a one we really struggle with. And that almost goes back to that piece of like, well, we feel like we need to know everything, right? We need to be an expert on every single topic, which is impossible. And, let's say, for example, like we wouldn't necessarily, let's say like you broke your knee. Okay, I don't know if this is an example I can follow through with, but let's say you broke your knee and you needed to go to a specialist, someone that could, like consult you on like the tear that happened or the bone issue or whatever. You might start with your general practitioner, but then really quickly they're going to send you to a specialist. So we need to think, more in terms of being a specialist of one thing and really knowing a lot about one thing versus, everything about everything. So if you're really struggling with that, not knowing enough, and you haven't found maybe like that pocket, even if it's not like niching down so specific to like PMS, maybe it's just like women's health, and then that cuts out a lot of other people as well. So we don't have to go so in depth. I like to think of niching almost like a funnel, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. But thank you so much for sharing. It's nice to always see. Well, I don't like that other people are struggling with this, but I think personally it's nice to see I'm not the only one, and maybe that feels the same way for you as well. So instead, I want you to focus in on these 4 areas, and we're going to go a little bit in depth to them as well. So mapping out your vision, setting up your schedule, goal setting, but realistic goal setting, and then mastering your mindset as well. So feel free, Veronica, if you're okay with it, I'm fine with people like taking a picture or, I'm not sure if you're going to send out the recording, but I'm going to go through these a little bit quickly. So when we're first starting our business, or even if you need to go back and like relook at the business structure that you have, really ask yourself, like, what do I want my nutrition business to look like? This is where you can really dream things up and like really vision, maybe you even create like a vision board and like, what do you want it to look like? And how do I want to work with clients? Do I want to work online, offline? Do I want to be like super responsive and on call for people? Or do I want to do less hand holding and maybe create things in my business that people can bring themselves through? So really asking yourself, how do I want to actually communicate and work with clients? How many clients do I want to have? And thinking realistically here, because although I think a lot of us are just like any client, like anyone that comes through the door, I'll take, which of course at the beginning we might need to be a bit more flexible, but as you get busier, it's not just the time in session with clients, it's the time out of session, creating health plans, following up with your clients, doing administrative work. So really thinking realistically, like, maybe I'm shooting too much for the stars. Maybe I'm like, I need 20 clients now, but that's not realistic. So really looking at your time, which we'll talk about in a second, to map out like how many people can you actually bring on? And then how much money do I want to make? I think money conversation is a real sore spot in our profession. It's not talked about a lot because we're helpers. We just want to help people. And sometimes we'll discount ourselves, or we won't charge what is worth our time because we just want to help people. But asking yourself, well, how much money do I need to make to even hit my own personal, like paying my mortgage or paying my rent and living a decent life where I have enough money coming in? So asking yourself these things, because this is going to influence how much we need to price some of our programs or packages for. So just having a baseline of the vision for your business. The next is setting up your schedule. So asking yourself, do I want to work part-time or full-time? Remember, this is your business. You don't have to work full-time if you don't have full-time hours. Maybe you're a busy mom and you only have a couple hours a week. So knowing yourself and knowing I can only have, 2 new clients a month, and that's okay, right? But we need to have a baseline for where we're at. Asking yourself, how many hours per week do I want to work? Again, this is going to influence how many clients we can actually bring on. Also, one that I know a lot of us maybe don't prioritize near the beginning of our business is, what days do I want to see clients on? I recommend personally having set client days. I personally do Tuesdays and Thursdays, and sometimes I'll add a Wednesday in if things get a bit busy. But that way I know on Mondays, I personally will do what I usually do, podcast recording and content creation. Tuesdays, I do clients. Wednesdays, I'll write an email to my email list and do some marketing. Thursdays, I do clients. Fridays are usually a wrap up, or when I'm doing my YouTube, which doesn't always happen, that's just like I'll collect all day. So I know, okay, these are the days that I see clients, and my schedule can keep really clean and organized that way. And then what days do I want to do admin work? So really setting your schedule up for success, because really quickly you might be like, there is so much I need to do in my business. How do I have the time? So build that in early on. And if you're further along in your business and you're feeling overwhelmed with your schedule, come back to the drawing board and really, look at your schedule and create, if it works for you, certain days for certain things, or even blocks of time throughout your days where maybe you do the morning is content creation and marketing and your afternoon is clients, but you get to set that up for success. The next is goal setting. So asking yourself, what are my goals? What are some of the short-term goals that I have, even in the next month or 3 months or 6 months? And then what is like my year onwards looking like? Because we need to set goals that are going to be a little bit realistic. Also, how will I keep track of my goals? So will you be writing them down? Will you be getting some kind of accountability partner, like somebody else in your membership, in the group, that you can maybe partner up with, like an accountability partner, and keep each other on track? One thing that I always love to teach is, and maybe everybody knows this already, but good, better, best goals. So I think sometimes in life or in business, we're like, oh, well, I need to get, 10 clients this month. And that's like, shooting for the stars. That's like the optimal like goal down here. But can we be a little realistic? So what is a good goal? Maybe that's getting 1 to 2 clients this month, and that would feel good. Maybe better would be 3 to 5 clients, and maybe best would be 10. But at least if we have this sliding scale and we know, okay, if I reach my good goal, that's going to feel good. And even if we don't reach it, fine, that's okay, right? Like it's not always going to work out perfectly, but having this sliding scale, so we're not putting so much expectation on ourselves, can really be helpful in business. And then lastly, my favorite is, how will I celebrate when I reach my goals? For a lot of us being, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, by ourselves, there's no boss to say, great job, you did really good. And, there's no, I guess, like employee morale. There's usually no employees. So it's just us by ourselves. So actually celebrating yourself, if you reach a goal, can feel really good, and can also help to like boost your morale in your business, because essentially you are your own boss. And then lastly, mastering your mindset. So it sounds like a lot of us here are struggling with some of our mindset, which is so common. And again, you're not alone. So maybe going more in depth into these questions, asking yourself, what is stopping me from being successful? Is it myself? Is it finances? Is it time? If you really know the thing that is stopping you, then you can start working on that to hopefully overcome that block. Also, what boundaries can I set for myself? So, personally, I can become a workaholic. I could work forever. So a boundary I had to set, a couple of years into my business, once I burned myself out, was I don't work weekends anymore. Even if a client needs a weekend session, maybe in the like real off chance would I do that, but for most of the time, no. That's a boundary I've set for myself and my family. So really looking at the boundaries you need to set. What positive affirmations can I use on those hard work days where maybe you're feeling down? So maybe it's not necessarily telling yourself an affirmation. Maybe it's, well, I guess the next one is, who will I lean on for support? So I was going to say, finding again that accountability partner or that friend who's also building their business, because sometimes, unfortunately, friends or family don't understand what we're going through if they're not also business owners. So we need to find those people that are also going through the same thing as us. So by asking yourself these questions, you're taking control of your business and setting yourself up for success. I'm just going to check in on the time, because I know we have a pretty hard stop here. I can tend to go on and tell lots of stories, so I'll try to motor through this all. So number 2 is business fundamentals. Now, a lot of you might have checked these off your list. These are like the actual concrete things you need to do to get started. But feel free, even in the Q&A session, we can go into some of these in detail if you haven't passed this point yet. But one thing I do see a lot of nutritionists being held back from, or not even starting their business, is because they don't have those business fundamentals set up. They're like, well, I can't start because I'm worried about XYZ. So scenario 1 can be thinking you missed something and not wanting to launch your business just in case. You're like, I better wait before I press go. Scenario 2 is wondering if you set everything up correctly and afraid that you've made a mistake. I know this happens a lot with legal. Do I have the right contracts in place? Do I have the right insurance? Or even unsure what steps you need to take and what you should do first, second, third. I remember this being the most confusing part. It's like, okay, so do I do my logo and then my business card? Like that whole which one, comes first, chicken or the egg, and that can be confusing when starting your business. So I just want to give you a really simple list that, again, you're welcome to take a picture of, but a lot of you might already have these in place. So the first one is we want to choose and register our business name. I always recommend, if possible, or if you're getting overwhelmed with your business name, personally, I always recommend just going with your own name if you're really, really stuck on choosing a business name. I see so many people getting stuck at this point and they can't move forward. So just choose something that works for now. You could always pivot down the line. Depending where you're living, like if you're in Canada or in the United States or international, we do need to register our business. And in Canada, we can choose from sole proprietor or incorporation. I mean, there are more options, but those are the ones we really want to look at. If you're in the States, an LLC is a good option as well, but you would just register your business locally, like provincially or federally, depending which business model you're going to go with. The next one is you might, depending if you're practicing out of your home, you might need to apply for business licenses like work from home, what is it called? Home-based business license. And that you would just go to like your town or municipality. A lot of us might be working online, so this won't apply, but it's just worth looking into. And then purchasing liability insurance. Now, this is a big one I think holds a lot of people back. It's very easy to set up. My recommendation is BrokerLink. They used to be called Lackner McLennan, and they are like a recommended one from the school I went to. There is also BMS insurance, and I think it's called Alternative Balance, might be the third one that I usually recommend. But making sure you're set up, just thinking of insurance like car insurance, right? In case something happens, you want to be protected, and you want your clients to feel protected as well. So it's definitely worth having. And then lastly, purchasing your domain. So your www. For me, it's stephanielong.ca, purchasing that, having that reflect your business name if possible, and then buying a professional email. Now, here's a caveat. If you don't have the funds to buy a professional email, like for me, it's hello@stephanielong.ca. If you don't have the funds to pay for that, you could always do like a Gmail. So it could be, for me, I used to be Stephanie Long Nutrition, so it could be stephanielongnutrition@gmail.com, but just having something that reflects a bit of professionalism. Try not to use your personal email if possible. So once you get all these things checked off, you can rest assured that everything is set up correctly. There are definitely a few more things, but these are the big ones you really need to get down to start practicing. So the third one is working with clients. So this is really important to feel confident working with your nutrition clients. This is the bread and butter of our business. If we are not confident and we don't deliver a good service, then people might not come back, or we might not get good testimonials. So we want to make sure things are really clean and clear and organized within this section. And I find like a lot of people get tripped up here. So let me show you what I mean. So this means having a great onboarding system so that your clients are like wowed from the moment they start working with you. They feel really good, because sometimes we can work so hard on trying to get a client, putting so much time and effort there, that we don't actually support the clients once they come in. It's a little messy, or things, aren't set up or organized, or it's taking all your time to send forms and collect payment and all of these things. And there are so many ways to do this in a more streamlined manner. So here, again, feel free to take a photo if you want, but here are the onboarding pieces that I recommend. So the first one is you want to make sure you have client intake forms. So you can either use the ones you got from school, you can create your own. If you're using a client management platform like Practice Better, which we'll talk about more in a second, they have built-in forms like templates you can use. So it can be a really easy process. One thing I know so many people don't do that I highly recommend you do is have a client contract in place. So outline the payment terms for the session or the program that they're purchasing. Any cancellations, what happens if they cancel a session? Refunds, do you give refunds? And making sure there's a medical disclaimer that they're signing there, depending on your designation, but saying, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not a naturopath, and being really protected that way to showcase that your information is for educational purposes only. The third is to have a way to schedule your clients in automatically. Now, I did not have this back in 2014. Practice Better did not exist at that point, or at least to my knowledge. So I was doing a lot of back and forth emailing with clients. And, do these dates work for you? Yes or no? And that's been spent so much time administratively. So to really win back some of your time, I recommend having a way to schedule your clients in so that they can go to, a landing page, pick a time that works for them. And then it's all scheduled and done. And also accepting payment online before your first session. Now, I highly recommend doing it before the session. Personally, there was a few times I was burned where I actually ran an entire session. This happened like a couple times where I ran an entire session. The person said they would pay after and they went MIA. And I really don't want that to happen to you because, and this shouldn't happen often. Like my case maybe is different than others. Maybe for some reason my processes weren't clean or there was a communication issue. But this can be really painful, in your business when you're not being paid for your work, and it can really bring you down. So making sure you have all these things set up so you're safeguarding yourself and that no payment is happening. And then set up your session details. So using an online portal or online platform like Zoom to run a session. And all of this can be done in Practice Better. I'm not sure if you guys have talked much about Practice Better. You probably have. I'm sure this is not new to any of you, but I highly recommend, using some of their setup videos to set up your account. If maybe it's sitting there and you're not utilizing it, get going with Practice Better. It's so nice to have that automation in your business. It's basically like you're paying, depending which Practice Better account, like price point you're at, but it's basically like a small amount to have a, on-hand personal or administrative assistant. So really think of this as an investment in your business. Also, another tool that I'm sure a lot of you know of as well is That Clean Life. I love it for meal planning and recipes, and this can really help with the client experience as well. And there are so many ways that you can use meal planning in your business as well. The next one is finding your focus. So we did talk a little bit about this, but we'll go a bit more in detail. So one thing that can help us a lot early on is to figure out who we want to work with, aka our niche. So with a focus or a niche, you can actually become that go-to expert, which means more referrals. Because let's say you are specifically saying, let me think of I don't know why this example is coming to me, but you're like a keto nutritionist. And, that's a very easy thing for other people. If someone says, oh, I want to try keto. Oh, let me tell you about my friend. Or hormone balancing. Or maybe you're doing like you're an MS, like specifically helping with MS or anything like that. As you are as you're more specific with who you're helping, then people can refer to you. You become that expert. You can also create better programs for your clients. So if you know exactly who you want to help and what problem they have, you can create something that matches their needs. And this is going to equal good testimonials, because if they're getting, results from their program, they're going to write a good testimonial about you. And testimonials are like currency. People like to read testimonials and get that affirmation that someone else has gone through your program or your service. So this is really a really helpful piece. You can also learn how to market your services more effectively, because again, if you know you're helping with balancing hormones, then all of your content becomes about hormone balancing. And this way you're getting clients that actually need that kind of support. You can also then stay focused on what you love and do best and not worry about taking on every single client that comes. I remember this being the most stressful piece for me personally, is like, well, now I need to learn about this other thing. And I'd like be so stressed out before a session. So this way you can really stay focused. And then you can stand out from the crowd. So instead of being a small fish in a big pond of a million other nutritionists out there, you can really be a bigger fish in a smaller pond once you figure out where you really want to focus your business. So if you're not sure where to start with niching, ask yourself, what do I know best? What can I talk about for hours on end? Who do I want to help, right? Like maybe I'm thinking I should do like kids nutrition, but I actually don't want to work with kids, or I don't want to work with parents. So really asking yourself, who do I want to help? And what problem do I want to solve? This is really the big piece here. If somebody's having a hormone issue, what problem are you solving? Are you helping them, have more energy? Are you helping them to have better periods? Really asking yourself, like, what is it that I'm actually helping with? So here's some examples of a clear focus or a niche, some I help statements. So I help runners prepare for their next marathon and master their pre and post workout routine. So this person is helping runners specifically who are prepping for a marathon with their pre and post workout. So the deliverables, or the problem they're solving, is teaching them pre and post workout so that they can reach their goal. Another one is I help women balance their hormones so that they have a happy, healthy period every single month. I help people with IBS fix their digestion or balance their digestion so they can live bloat-free and eat whatever they want. So some of these are a little more niche down than others, but you can see a clear example here of where to get started. Okay. So what happens if I can't decide on a niche? This happens to a lot of us. So the first thing I want you to do is ask yourself, what kind of clients do I like working with? So just start working with clients. And, I really liked when I worked with XYZ issue, not so much this other one. What kind of clients do I not like working with? What topics are my favorite to talk about? What do I actually get excited about? And this is important because the more excited you are talking about something, the more that people are going to feel that excitement and get on board with what you're talking about. And then what makes me unique as a nutritionist? Maybe this is where you bring in your own personal story. I know a lot of us will find that focus or niche in our business based on what we went through currently or ourselves, but this isn't like a prerequisite. You can still work within a niche even if you don't have personal experience. The next one is creating your nutrition programs. So what I want you to really focus on is creating a program or an offer for your client that they actually want to buy, that they want, and something that they need. So this means creating a need to have program, not a nice to have program. And you can do this, you can figure out what's a need to have program by asking your audience, doing some market research, really figuring out, is this something that it's like really going to solve a problem, or is it just something that that it would just be nice for them to do. Money is so tight for a lot of us right now, kind of post-pandemic recession talk and all of this. So we need to be clear that we're creating things that are super valuable for people. And so make sure that your program solves a problem and also creates a transformation. And for this reason, I do try to recommend avoiding to offer just one-off sessions. It's really hard to build a business this way. You're going to have to find dozens or hundreds of clients, every single year just to make a good income off a one-off, $80 to $200 one-off session. And that's also not that helpful for that client in the long run to reach all of their health goals. So there's three things I want to introduce here. I'm sure you've heard of all of these. The first one is, instead of just doing a one-off session, package a few sessions together. So maybe you're packaging 3 sessions, and this is just helping the client with compliance. They're coming back in. You can make it further recommendations. And it's just a nice way to not have someone to commit to something like a big program or something long-term, but they're getting more than just one session that likely might not be super helpful. The other is a monthly program. So this would be like a 1-month program, a 3-month program. So it's a contained amount of time you're working together. And then the last one is a signature program. So a signature program could be, for example, if you're helping people with their periods, it'd be like a 3-month program that's helping them balance their hormones and fix their period or balance their period or whatever wording you want to use there. So it's a specific outcome, and the program is just geared to doing that one thing. The next thing you could consider doing is a group nutrition program. So this is a program where multiple clients would enroll at once, and you would guide them all through the program at the same time. And then lastly is an online program or an online course. So a pre-created program that's full of videos, lessons, and resources that can be completed self-paced online. Now, what I usually recommend doing if you're like, well, where do I get started? I usually recommend starting with one-on-one and then changing that, like creating that program or offering, and then creating that as a group, and then turning that into an online program. I find that that's a really good progression, but that's not a hard and fast rule. That's just a recommendation for you. So how do you come up with your nutrition programs? First, like I mentioned, you want to do some market research to ask your audience what they want. And if you don't have an audience, start with your friends and family. Even if they're not the perfect people within your niche, still start there. Or you could even go into Facebook groups or watch YouTube videos, or sorry, look at YouTube video comments, or even just Google searching to see what are people looking for or asking about online. The next one is deciding how many sessions your client needs to get results, the length of your program and what's going to be included. And then I recommend coming up with a framework of what you're going to teach inside your sessions. This is what trips a lot of people up. It's like, well, if they're booking in for a month, what am I going to do? Come up with a small framework. Even if you know week 1, we do this, week 2, we do that. And even if they don't follow it to a T, at least you have that structure there. So you can always fall back on it if you don't know what to talk about in a session. And then lastly, decide on a price that works for you and is going to be accessible for the client. So something that matches your needs and can match their needs at the same time. Okay, I know I'm kind of rushing here. I just want to make sure we get it all in. The last but not least is putting yourself out there. So the marketing piece, which Veronica mentioned, a lot of you might be interested in talking more about. So hopefully there are some tidbits here that can help you out. So I just want to point out that when you get clear on your goals, when you get a focus or a niche in place, when you get a program or offering created, this is going to help you become more consistent with your marketing, because now you know what you're marketing, you know what your goals are, you know who you're marketing to, you know what you're marketing, which is your program or your offer. This is going to help you at the end of the day. Because a confused client doesn't buy. If someone doesn't know who you are, what you do, how you can help them, what they're buying, they're likely not going to buy. So we want to make sure everything is really clean and clear for people to understand. So here are some key marketing tips to focus on. So creating your content, whether this is social media content, blog content, even emails to your email list, creating content based on what you're teaching inside of your programs or inside of your sessions. So this kind of almost goes back to like creating content for your niche or specific to what your people or your audience need to learn, because we should be teaching them a little bit about what you're going to teach them further in their sessions so they know if this is a fit for them or not. And don't worry about giving too much away. I know this is like the sticking point for a lot of people. It's okay to give, like a little bit about the what and the why. So, information or education around some of these topics, but you might not give them the how. You might not say this is exactly how to do this. That can come more in consultations or more personalization when they're working with you. So just giving more broad information can always be helpful. Also, be as consistent as possible so that you're top of mind. Try your best to, even if you can set a goal to show up once a week on social media and send even one email a month, whatever the schedule is you're going to take, definitely stick to that. And then also get visible. So this one can be a sticking point for a lot of people too. And this is a big difference maker. I find that the clients who are so resistant to either showing their face or going on video or doing audio, once they start doing that, business really does start rolling for them. So if you can gather the courage to even just start with an audio recording of you talking while you're making a salad, that's just more communication, and they're getting to know you as the person, as the practitioner. And then also posting educational content 80% of the time. So right now, let's say your Instagram or your social media, or even your blog, maybe it's more like a little bit about business, a little bit about your life, about your kids, about your dog. Let's really try to wrap it up and together and focus a lot on really great quality content that can help them learn from you and put you in that position of being an authority in the space. And some other tips are ask your audience, like poll your audience. So your social media or even your friends and your family, ask them what they want to learn about. If you're really stuck on content ideas, what do you want to learn about? Like what, do you want to learn about X? Give them 3 options and let them tell you what you should go more in depth into. Another piece is to use your clients' words in your marketing and not your own. So a problem that I see a lot of the time is a lot of us are writing or communicating with our, nutritionist hat on, like as if we're in school learning from our teachers. We're using words like making sure you have enough hydrochloric acid, and the common person, they might not know or care what that actually means. So using words, saying things like to help your bloating, using language that's actually accessible to them is very important. And then lastly, I've mentioned this a couple times, but leveraging referrals and collaborating with other practitioners. So connecting with naturopaths and chiropractors and even other nutritionists outside of your niche and communicating with them and sharing how you can support their clients that they're not able to support and build this referral network with them. So really quickly, here's what we know now. When we build in entrepreneurial skills, a strong business foundation, streamlined client onboarding, we have that clear focus or niche, we have programs that solve problems, and we have an easy to follow marketing and visibility plan. This should equal new paying nutrition clients on demand. And, even if you have these all in place, let's just keep revisiting them to make sure they're all as solid as possible so that business is really moving along for you. And some of the things you might gain from really nailing these things are signing new clients, getting more visible on social media, growing your email list, getting more referrals and collaborations, growing your business, having raving testimonials from clients, and making a good income doing what you love. So these are all things that I think we all want. And again, nailing these 6 steps, over the course of time is really going to help you put a solid business foundation in place. Now, lastly, I will say, I do have an online course called Launch Your Nutrition Biz that goes in depth into everything we talked about and more. And I know that Veronica has a link she's going to share with you. I also put together a $100 discount for those that might be interested. And I know Veronica will share the details. But I won't bore you with going into the course. You can always check it out at stephanielong. Well, actually, I'll let Veronica share her link, but you can find out more information there. And I think if we have time for questions.
Yeah, we've got a few minutes left. And there was a couple questions already, but for anyone who hasn't popped a question into that Q&A box or into the chat, feel free to do that now. And we'll try to get through those. So I saw, Nancy, you had popped into the chat a little bit earlier, and you said, to me right now with a new baby, and she's got 3 kids altogether, 4 clients per month is good for her. But a couple of problems that she's facing are that clients are not booking follow-up sessions after an initial consult, which you sort of touched on. Mm-hmm. And then second to that, she said sometimes she has clients who don't apply what she teaches them. And she's even had some clients who've just disappeared. So if they do buy a package, they're doing a couple of the sessions and then not coming back and finishing the rest of them. So do you have any thoughts for her on what to do? And she is using Practice Better, if that helps as well.
Perfect. Yeah. So lots of different thoughts. I'll try to just kind of consolidate them to a few. So the first thing I would say is making sure that you are bundling sessions. So like if it's just an intake and you're waiting, you're communicating to them after like booking a follow-up session, try to overcome that by, bundling sessions or packaging sessions together so they purchase 3. I would also, have them book that second session in the first session. So actually pull up your calendar and have them book in, even though they might cancel, like that's just going to potentially create a bit more compliance. Also communicating early on a roadmap for what's happening, because they might just think that these, oh, well, why should I go to this session? She already gave me a meal plan or whatever it is. It's like communicating like what they're going to learn in each session. So this could even mean not, another thing we really have to think of is not dumping so many recommendations at first on somebody. So maybe this is dripping them out over the course of, 3 to 5 sessions and saying to them, next week or in 2 weeks when we meet, we're going to work on these things together. And that could help with compliance. And then also going back to the piece of the reason people might not be coming back could be that it's overwhelming, like just looking at the process of how much you're actually giving to them. Remembering people can usually only implement a couple new things. Like I'd say most of my clients, like maybe 2 new things a week and 3 maybe, depending, but I know for me personally, if I can do 1 new thing a week, that's amazing. So remembering that like we can't have like such high expectations if we're giving too much. And I'm not sure if that's what you're doing, Nancy, but just something to look at. And it might also be that again, I'm not sure, but if there's no strong like niche there, it might just be that people don't really understand like why they're seeing a nutritionist. Maybe they thought it would be a good idea, but they don't really know what the like transformation or end goal is. So maybe really figuring out how you can communicate how over X amount of time you're going to reach this finish line at the end together. So I hope that helps.
Yeah. Nancy says, thank you. She definitely gives too much info all at once.
We all do.
That's a very, very common issue. So it is a good thing to, even as you progress in your career, to continue to revisit some of these concepts, because it's good for all of us to have those refreshers, no matter how long we've been doing this work.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in with another question, only because we are going to have this replay available. And this is a question that has come up quite frequently in some of our pods and open office hours and some other things that we do, about specifically how to manage those mindset pitfalls that you went into. So some of that imposter syndrome or perfectionism or not feeling like you're ready. Do you have any resources or tips for people? Because I think a lot of us understand that we need to overcome those, or we want to overcome those, but where do you look? How do you get started on that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I know I do have a blog post on imposter syndrome that I can definitely share with you and you can send out to the group. I know personally, especially if it's more of the comparison or I'm not far enough along or look at what everybody else is doing, when that tends to happen, I usually will stop. If it's that I'm getting kind of stimulated by like online social media, what other people are doing, I usually either take some time away or stop following some of the people that might be creating some of those internal feelings for me. So again, creating those strong boundaries at that point of like, what are you going to look at and not look at, even just for a small, short period of time. If it's to do with like the not knowing enough or needing more certifications, I think that is almost a problem where you just need to start getting in session with clients and seeing that, even the smallest recommendations sometimes can make a huge difference for people. And remembering that, we're at level, well, I don't know, 5 or 10 or 20 with our nutrition knowledge. And a lot of people are at level 1. So, they don't need to know a lot of the time, all the science and all of the, like referenced articles that you've read and all these things. Your job is to take what you've learned, all these scientific studies or all of this research, and break it down into an easy, like I like to even tell people like something they can put on their fridge, like I do this, and just like really simplify it. And simple things like that is really what we're in the business of here, is helping people build habits and helping people implement what we're teaching. So it doesn't need to be overly complicated. And I think you just need to start doing to see that. And if you do see in your practice, oh, I actually don't have an answer to that question, it's totally fine to say, that's a great question. I'm not sure of the answer at this moment, but let me get back to you. So even if you don't know enough in a session, you can, like, it's okay. I would prefer personally that somebody would say, I'm not sure, and let me get back to you, and then have a strong follow-up game versus just saying information that you're not 100% about or that you don't know about. And then also having that strong niche could actually help you out here, because again, you can really get strong on one topic and feel confident about one or a couple topics versus a million topics. Trying to think what else. Yeah, I just think it comes with it's the name of the game. I mean, I definitely struggle with it. I really heavily lean on some of my entrepreneurial friends, like some of my friends that are also building businesses, voice noting them and saying, hey, is this a good idea? Am I the only one going through this? I'm really leaning heavily. And I think knowing that there are going to be ups and downs, because I think a lot of us think, oh, like it should be going like this. And why am I'm not feeling so great. And it's like knowing this is part of the game and that's okay, or part of the process, and that's okay.
I think it goes back to the very first thing that you shared, which is that entrepreneurial mindset. Because honestly, we're all going to have these feelings of doubt. We're all humans, but it's just doing it anyways, right? Just like stepping off that ledge and doing it anyhow, even if you don't feel ready, even if you don't think it's perfect, even if you're unsure. That's an entrepreneurial part of it.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. We have come to the end of our hour, but this was a lot of information that you shared in a short period of time. For everyone who is on this call, we will have the replay available if there's any of those slides that you want to go back to and revisit. We have the link to Stephanie's program in the chat if you want to check that out a little bit more. We will post that with the replay also. And the information to get into contact with you, Stephanie, if anyone would like to reach out specifically. So thank you for being here today and sharing everything that you had. This was a great time.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I know it was a lot of information, so I'm glad that you'll have those resources to go back, but I really, really appreciate everybody's time today. And it was really nice to meet everybody. So thank you for coming.
All right. Take care, everyone. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.